The Executive Director of the Center for Development, Research and Advocacy, Cedric George Jeto, says the utmost challenge confronting young entrepreneurs aside to set up firms for employment. He charged government to prioritize the acquisition of land for young entrepreneurs in the yet-to-be-established Youth Enterprise Fund.
Of the Youth Enterprise Support Fund, yes, by government in the first half of the year has been good news for young entrepreneurs. The greatest challenge of youth in the country is capital to set up businesses and space for firms. Statistics shows about 60% of unemployed citizens are youth. The Center for Development, Research and Advocacy in prioritizing youth for development has called on stakeholders to show real commitment towards the empowerment of the youth. Speaking at a press conference, a member of the center disclosed capital as a major challenge of the Ghanaian youth.
Mentorship and apprenticeship be prioritized and arranged in Ghana and across our borders in the sub-region for our youth. This will decrease delinquency and increase initiatives and diversification of our economy.
The executive director stressed on the need for stakeholders to employ accountability in the Yes Fund operations.
If you have a situation where you implement Yes Fund and then you don't look at the legal regime in terms of the rent law, where young people who want to rent shops in order to manage their enterprises, they've gone for fund and they'll use that fund to pay for the space. Government must make sure that they put a board in place who is able to manage the sentiment of all other youths across board, not within a particular party alone.
The press conference was themed showing real commitment to the youth of Ghana, the role of stakeholders.
We'll be getting into a studio discussion in a moment, but on what do you think? Catherine Frimpoma also sought the views of the public on the Youth Enterprise Fund.
The government has allocated 10 million cedis to the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative to provide job opportunities for the youth. But to what extent do you think this fund can go in solving unemployment in the country?
Are we sure that they are going through the right people? Are they not going to give it to party favorites or something of that sort? So this is something that I think they shouldn't go there. They should make sure the economic conditions are all right, interest rates are down, inflation is down. So every individual, every youth can just go to the bank and access the loan.
It might not be enough. Even in Accra here, 10 million Ghana cedis. When you want to share this money, I don't think the youth there to reach them. But if government wants to establish some business like a company, so that you employ workers, the youth, to get some jobs, I think that would be better.
Don't have money as of now, so despite the IMF issue, so I think 10 million is enough.
Well, I don't know what they're but I try to me so because anybody organ doesn't.
To me, it's not necessary. That's my opinion. There are a lot of problems that we are going through, not even the youth. There are other better problems that we have to solve than the youth.
I think that the 10 million is not enough, and so maybe the president should add more money to it so that in case everything can go on.
The fact is, how many people would get access to this? If you rather create more jobs for the youth and also lift the embargo from the employment so that youth would be employed.
Scanner there normal. Omo can be omo here. So omo de bebu ankwa dia anke pa.
Well, very, very varying views there. I love the gentleman who said Omocha Kwaya and Sunisu. But really, are they going to share the money? We've been joined in the studio by the CEO of the National Youth Authority, Ras Mubarak. Good afternoon. And also joining us is Kobe Gomez. He's with the he's a program coordinator for Center for Development, Research and Advocacy. Good afternoon to you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
And let me start off with you. Views from the public. The whole National Youth Fund, there's no understanding whatsoever as to how it's going to pan out. So explain to us, what's this fund, how is it going to pan out?
Well, the views are quite interesting, and clearly there's got to be a lot of education to all Ghanaians as to what exactly this is all about. as you may be aware, a lot of young people find it very difficult, exceedingly difficult to access funding to start up their businesses. And because of the growing number of young people who are unemployed but yet still have some brilliant ideas that they would have wished to translate them into reality, His Excellency President Mahama thought that we should have a fund to support these young people. And so basically that's how come we set up these funds, because conditions at the respective banks and financial institutions are quite difficult for a lot of young people in our country. And this fund is open to all Ghanaians who are young people, who are youth. Now when we talk about
in other words, it doesn't end at 40?
No. Per the African Youth Charter, which has been ratified by Ghana and almost all of the countries in Africa, youth age is between 15 and 35. So if you're more than 35, you do not qualify to be called youth, okay, even though you may be youth at heart. So
are you looking at, you're talking about entrepreneurs, so are you looking at people who have brilliant ideas, I mean like proposals, and then you would want to invest in it, or how would it, because there's a lot of confusion as to how.
No, there's no confusion, there's clarity, there's a lot of clarity
so
as to what this is all about. One, if you have some ideas that you would wish to turn them into a business and you're finding it difficult accessing funding, obviously this is the best place to start off. And to answer the question about whether or not the money is too small, a lot of people have started their businesses from very modest, from very humble beginnings, with 1,000 cedis, with 2,000 cedis, and have translated these businesses into, something very, very big. So it is not quite how much you would get, because a lot of the companies that are very big currently are companies who started from somewhere and are able to expand over time.
And it's a form of a loan.
There will be repayment, but this is different from anything we've seen, in this country, because there's a training component. A lot of the time, a lot of people, go for loans from the banks and they are unable to manage the funds properly because the banks will not have the time to give you training on how you should, manage the funds that you would take from the bank.
Hang on a minute. Training program in what sense? Let's say, for instance,
if you would allow.
Hold on, no. Let me give you an example. For instance, if let's say I'm a movie producer, I want to produce a movie. What sort of training are you going to give me?
If you are accessing a loan to start up a business, you need training in financial management. Okay, we don't just throw the money at you, on how to even manage your accounts, because it's very important. Somebody takes a loan from the bank, he used the business funds to pay his light bill, for instance, just an example.
Sure, okay.
Obviously, you're going to have trouble with whatever money you have at your disposal. Okay. So aside the training component of financial management, you're also going to have people who would undertake these beneficiaries through mentorship, because that is key as well. In everything that we seek to do, we have to keep in mind that there are people who have been very successful at it.
Yes.
And it is very important that we get mentors to come in and give guidance to these young people who would be applying for the fund.
All right, points well made. Kobe, you are raising concerns about how the fund would be managed. What specifically is your concern with the Youth Enterprise Fund, which something
Enterprise
support fund?
The Yes Fund for us is a brilliant idea.
Okay.
And so we, in the press statement that we read to the press yesterday, we acknowledge that fact. But we are also saying that there are things that need to happen if this becomes successful.
So those are the things I want you to highlight. Like what?
First of all, I've been listening to Ras, and he hasn't said when the fund is going to be accessible for young entrepreneurs to take advantage of. Now, first of all, we need to know when that is going to happen. And once we know when that is going to happen, we also want to see certain measures in place. For instance, this fund is not a standalone, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. The general legal framework does not support startups, because Bridget, if you wanted to start a business in dressmaking, if you wanted to start a business in dressmaking, you need a premises, right? And depending on which area in this country where you're going to find the premises, you're expected to pay not less than 2 years of advance, and then also goodwill. The goodwill is paid regardless of whether the facility is an old facility or is a new one. And so, you cannot just
so let me put that question
provide,
to us, for instance,
so you cannot just provide funds without looking at the legal environment that makes startup businesses see light of day. Because you can give me funds, give me training, but if the general legal environment is not one that is conducive for me as a business person, which is where I stand, then you are doing practically very
I don't know what.
No, I don't want you to respond directly. I have a question for you. Like that, which phase are you supporting the youth? Is it complete, genuine idea straight from the book? And how much fund will go into, like he mentioned, a site and so on?
Well, first of all, I mean, there are no hard and fast rules as to how much would be available for each applicant.
Obviously,
it depends.
Volume of
it depends on one's business proposal. And secondly, I do not know what legal framework my brother is talking about, because there are clear laws in this country that prohibits people from taking rent advance for more than 2 years.
Can I just correct him on that?
Please.
No, government gave members of parliament money to rent accommodation for 4 years.
It's not a shouting.
Listen to who
it's not a shouting.
I'm not shouting. I'm not shouting.
Well, hang on. I'm the moderator.
Please,
so please just hold on. You have your opportunity. Go ahead, Ras.
Thank you very much. He talks about the fact that he doesn't know when it's going to start. Now, there are processes. If you follow through how these projects work elsewhere, there's a call for applications. When the applications are called, selections are made. People are notified about the selections, and then they are interviewed or interrogated further to even find out about their backgrounds before monies are disbursed. So it's a process. The funds are available. Immediately, there will be a call for application, and then young people from all over the country could apply. Because what you also don't want to do is to deprive people from accessing the fund. So when you call for application, others will be sending the applications by post, others by email. So you need to give it about a month or two to collect all of the applications, and then you go through the selection processes. In terms of whether or not somebody has office space, is neither here or there. The laws are clear.
So you give money to someone who is working from a bedroom, I mean, if it's a good idea.
Well, not necessarily from a bedroom, because you wouldn't expect that ideally a bedroom would not be the right place to start a business.
I use the word. People are selling from their car boots.
Absolutely, which is brilliant, which is innovative, and a lot of people have started their businesses from the house, and are doing quite well. This is something innovative that we should encourage, and then make proposals.
But the danger is that danger here is that you would have a situation whereby you will set up the fund all right, but then it will be the very people who are currently successful in their businesses who would be accessing it, and not young entrepreneurs who are like starting out.
That is why there's an age cutoff.
I would come to you.
You've got to be not more than 35 years to access this fund. And this is not to also suggest that people who are already in business but need to expand and grow cannot apply for it. They can also apply. Okay. But the most important thing is that you've got to be a Ghanaian, you've got to meet an age criteria, you've got to have a business proposal. At least you should have been a JHS graduate.
Just before your question, Ras has demonstrated to our viewers that he hasn't attempted being enterprising.
In other words,
he suggested
No, it's not about. But you shouldn't take a swipe at him. You shouldn't take a swipe at him.
Well, I will apologize. I will apologize and make this point for the average Ghanaian out there who has attempted doing something by himself. Ras is suggesting to me on this program that if I went out there and I was starting a business, I don't need the premises.
No. I haven't said that.
And he's suggesting to Ghanaians who are watching us this morning or this afternoon that you do not need to pay a minimum of 2 years to access space for a business
the law prohibits that, but the reality is
that government of Ghana gave money to members of parliament to rent space for 4 years. So if government of Ghana respects its own laws on accommodation, why will government of Ghana give members of parliament way ahead of their 4 year
I would like to correct you on that. I would like to correct you on that. For instance, if you're given a 4 year, that doesn't mean you're paying 4 year advance. It's possible you're paying it in 6 months.
So you're saying that the MPs paid that in 6 months?
It could be a possibility.
You are the journalist here. Are you telling? But you are the journalist here.
No, but address the substantive issue.
No, so that's what I'm saying. The substantive issue here is that giving somebody, say, 200 Ghana cedis or 500 Ghana cedis, 10,000 Ghana cedis does not get businesses running. Businesses need space. Businesses need other logistics. Businesses need equipment. Businesses need materials to be able to turn things around. And so we need to know, and I'm going to ask Ras these questions subsequently, as to what quantum of money is open to every individual. Over what time frame should people be accessing these funds? And then also issues about people's training. I mean, what do I need to come up with? Do I have to be a trained carpenter or a trained IT person? You know, let's look at that.
I get the point.
And I also believe, finally,
he's raised legitimate questions.
The last point I want to make is that what is the maximum threshold? What is the minimum threshold? These are critical issues. Who administers the funds? For us, these are very, very germane issues, because if we do not, have a frank discussion on the day after the launch of the fund, all we are going to see is, at the end of the day, Ras sitting here and speaking the way he is speaking.
Okay, all right, Kobe, hold on. But he's raised very legitimate questions.
No, they are not legitimate. I mean, no one has said
space?
That. No one has said that you don't need space to start a business. Have I said that? No. What you have suggested.
But how would you address what
you have suggested, which I concurred with, is that look, it's also possible to start your business, even from your car booth. People have done that. People have started businesses from their bedrooms and have actually translated.
But has this been thought through? I mean, what you're saying in terms of who qualifies? What's the threshold question you raised?
No, I've spoken to you about who qualifies, and I've spoken to you about the fact that there are no hard and fast rules to that.
All right.
Because Bridget, you may want to do a carpentry business. I may want to do a shoemaking business. At the end of the day, the budget for running your business and my business may not be the same. So to suggest that we should box ourselves in some narrow space and attempt to suggest that this is woefully inadequate for the people who may be.
Is that what has happened here? I don't think that's what I said. If you recall what I said, I made a clear case for a minimum threshold and a maximum threshold.
Sure,
so that once you attempt to access the funds, and then even the sort of businesses that they're going to support, is that blank check. So I dream the next morning that I want to create an image that looks like Bridget.
But I think he mentioned that. I mean, they'll be looking at all those proposals.
No, but
unfortunately,
what Ras needs to make clear, because it's important. What Ras needs to make clear to us is that this fund is going to support.
So you should be discussing with him. I mean, after
yes, initiatives from Alpha to maybe Zulu, or maybe it's only Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta that we go to.
I get it. All right, Kobe, thank you very much. The website
is www.yes.gov.gh, and we treat everyone who's got questions to look at the website. If they've got further questions,
can we check it here?
You can check it right.
All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that. Thank you very much, Ras. Mubarak is the acting CEO for the National Youth Authority, and also the coordinator for the Center, program coordinator for Center for Development, Research and Advocacy on the Yes Fund. Go to their website, is www.yes.gov.gh. .gov.gh.
Yes.
Yeah, .gov.gh. If you have questions and concerns, go there and put those questions to them. You can also send us your thoughts via our social media platform at News on TV3, and I will read your thoughts to the rest of the world.